Alright, welcome back dear listeners to our last and final episode of this season in Marks and Glyphs. So, just a quick recap before we move on to the subject of this episode. Tell me Niranjan, what do you remember or what is your main takeaway from our last episode?
So I'll give you the takeaway with an example. Have you heard of the famous movie Avatar?
Yeah, right. Who hasn't? The blue people. Yeah.
Yes. So that movie has the font papyrus on it. Right. Now that you think about it, you'll keep on remembering it. Oh, why does it have papyrus font on it?
Right. A pretty basic, PowerPoint font.
Yes, and it doesn't make sense at all. And even if you would have thought like after the second movie, they probably would have changed it, but they still haven't, and it somehow works.
Right.
So fonts are very important in that regard, and they have to convey a coherent image in terms of the blueness and the harmony that kind of accommodates both of them together, and it creates that brand image.
Correct.
That's what happened for Avatar. Now moving on to the other thing, the Titan jingle that you saw right now, right? So on today's episode of Marks and Glyphs, we'll be focusing on jingles most likely.
Okay.
And we'll see what makes them tick in a harmonious way.
Yeah. I saw what you did there. Right. Now, Tanuj, since this jingle is also your ringtone, I believe, right?
Yeah.
Do you want to explain a little bit about what you know about it and where it came from?
So, the jingle has a pretty interesting story. Titan, as you would normally associate that brand with class, some elegance, sophistication and all that. The thing is, when Xerxes Desai was looking for a jingle, he came across this Mozart's 25th Symphony.
Mozart, you said?
Yeah.
The Western classical composer.
Exactly. And he then hired, I think, A.R. Rahman, and they adapted that symphony using Indian instruments. And it actually blends really beautifully with the whole elegant and sophisticated picture that Titans wanted to portray. And yeah, it just fits very well. There is something called positive association.
Right.
And this whole symphony, it just brings out that sophistication part of it pretty well.
Yeah, and I feel like the logo and the font works harmoniously again with that.
Yeah, so basically you have all the three combinations here: the music, the logo, the font, everything working just
That's pretty
perfectly
interesting.
well.
Yeah.
But Gautam, I'll tell you one more interesting thing of why a jingle is important to the consumer.
Really?
Washing powder Nirma, washing powder Nirma, दूध सी सफेदी निर्मा से आए, रंगीन कपड़ा भी खिल जाए.
So you remember which brand this is?
You know what?
Jingle.
Yeah. Funnily enough, I don't think I've seen or even interacted with this brand in like 10 years. But I do know exactly where this jingle is from. So, yeah, I mean, now that I think about it, it's brand recall, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Brand recall is a very important thing that it comes for any brand image that they want to convey to the users, right? And so, if you are gonna go to a shopping mall,
Right.
you'll maybe a jingle is stuck in your head.
Right.
Then you'll see the brand and you'll probably want to buy it.
Correct. Do you know of any other, very famous jingle that you remember now, but you don't really look at much anymore?
I'll give you one more. The Vico Vajradanti one. Vico Vajradanti, Vico Vajradanti, Vico powder, Vico tel.
Yeah, right.
Ayurvedic जड़ी बूटियों से संपूर्ण स्वदेशी.
Right.
Vico powder. I don't even know.
Hardly any of us might have used that brand.
Yeah.
But probably the recall value is pretty high for that also.
Yes, and there's also another factor when it comes to the annoyance level of a particular song or jingle. You might remember a jingle being so annoying that it gets stuck in your head, right? I'll give you an example.
क्या up close up
करते हैं.
Oh yeah, the really nasal voice.
Yes,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
whole chomp close up करते हैं.
Yeah.
So the annoyance factor has an important value to it as well, because the more annoying the song, the better of an earworm it works as well.
But then, if you make all of your jingles super duper annoying, is that really going to help your product in the long run? Tanuj, what do you think?
I mean, no. If you just go back to the first lecture for the course that we had, there was something called ELM model, and it discussed about central and peripheral processing. So if you would have elements which are sort of very coherent, which just merges into one another, then I think the whole message, it comes out very strongly in a very blended way, right? But if you would have very divergent elements, let's say you put this close-up jingle on Titan, right? Just imagine how good that
people
is.
in suits
Right.
singing that.
Yeah, people in suits singing that.
Titan
thing.
use karte hai,
So the thing is, if you would do something like that, you will put divergent elements. I think you would tend to process the information more centrally rather than in a peripheral sense, which maybe using coherent elements forces you to do.
Right. So then you think that would cause some kind of dissonance with us?
Yeah, exactly.
But then, if we do that, would that affect our views on the product? Would it affect our views on how the attributes are coming across?
I mean, it does dilute the message, right?
Right. Because if the jingle is supporting the product attributes, then it helps them. But if it's taking away from it, then you probably look at it less seriously.
Yes. So, for example, the Ponds campaign of Wiggly Wiggly Whoosh, you remember that?
Yeah.
That had the caregiver archetype vibe all across it. So that also kind of
supports the method.
Supports the argument of that you need to ensure that your messaging comes across as the same way as you want your brand to represent.
Now, that's all very interesting. And if I were to go back to our first few episodes as well, the main theme of all these brand elements seems to be that they have to complement each other in order for the overall brand identity to be formed.
Yeah, they have to be coherent. So one of the best examples that kind of I love to always give is the Amul. You have the brand logo, right? The tagline, the taste of India. Then the whole character with the whole always on point comics of the Amul girl. And the whole Amul Doodh Peeta Hai India. The whole tone is just like way too good, and everything works in so coherent way. That's why it has been on
such a successful brand,
national brand all across India.
Fair enough. So I mean, that is pretty much what we had for you guys today. Thank you so much, listeners, for reaching this far in our, in our season 1 of Marks and Glyphs. Hopefully, we'll have a season 2 where we'll return with even more interesting facts and theories about the psychology of symbols, the psychology of marks and glyphs. Until then, thank you very much, and see you next time.